What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Wednesday, July 9th. My name is Ewan, and on today's episode, I'm going to get into my slightly early Belgian Grand Prix team selection. It's going to be a sprint weekend in Spa in a couple of weeks, so very much looking forward to that. And if you are enjoying what you are seeing in the F1 Fantasy Pole Position paddock, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are closing in on 3,400 subscribers. The goal is 3,500 by the summer break, so help me out there. I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, not much to kind of chit chat about too much. We had the British Grand Prix this past weekend. I had the race review. I'll put that up with a little sticker right now if you want to watch that. But yeah, we're just going to get right into it here with some Belgian Grand Prix previews. Alrighty, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, 19 corners, 44 laps, 2 DRS zones, and 1 F1 Fantasy Pole Position host will be there that weekend. On the Saturday, I will be there for sprint race and qualifying for the Grand Prix. So if you're going to be in Spa, hit me up. I'm on X at F1 Fantasy Ewan. We'd love to meet up with a couple of people if you guys are going to be around. So yeah, let me know. Over the last 3 seasons, 11th for overtakes, 5 DNFs in total. I didn't include any of these sprint races, so 1.6 average per race over the last 3 seasons. And then the 2024 podium, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc. If you remember, George Russell disqualified after the race for being underweight. Yeah, tough luck for George. But Mercedes went well around here last year. It didn't work out too well for them at Silverstone with the wet conditions and the cooler temperatures. We'll see what Spa is going to throw our way. It's often quite changeable conditions, can be quite a mixed bag over the course of a weekend. It is also a sprint weekend as well, so there are more point scoring opportunities, but also more points losing opportunities. So that makes me a little bit nervous as well. But I did look a little bit at the early weather forecast, not get into that today because it's Wednesday, July 9th. That's a little bit too far out to have anything predictable, but it does say it's supposed to be sunny in the extended forecast, so we will see how that goes. Pirelli are doing something different here for the 2025 edition. So in 2024, they brought the C2, the C3, the C4, but in 2025, they are bringing the C1, the C3, and the C4. They are skipping a compound. If you want to go see what that kind of is going to do to the race, make sure to check out my episode like a month ago with Coffee Corner Motorsport, Terry from FanAmp Fantasy over there at the Fantasy Formula. I'll put the card up right now so you guys can watch it if you want. And yeah, he went into in depth about what Pirelli is trying to do here. They're just trying to make it so you can switch up the strategies a little bit more. So the C1 is going to be the hard tire, the C3 is the medium, and the C4 is the soft. We'll see how that is going to go down and what kind of effects that will have in F1 Fantasy, especially because they only have one practice session to kind of get to grips with how all these tires are going to react. So yeah, it's going to be quite a hectic weekend as we see here on the schedule. It's been a minute since we've had a sprint weekend, so I just wanted to remind you guys of what the weekend schedule looks like. On Friday, we're going to have practice 1 and the sprint qualifying. So on the screen here, I've got the local time, the UK time, and the US Eastern. Practice 1 is at 12:30 p.m. local time, 11:30 a.m. UK time, and 6:30 a.m. US Eastern. Then the sprint qualifying is 4:30, 3:30, and 10:30 a.m. And then the big one here, the deadline lock for F1 Fantasy is going to be a lot earlier than we're used to over the last kind of couple of months here. 12 p.m. local time, 11 a.m. UK time, and 6 a.m. Eastern. So if you're in the States for this race, you're going to have to wake up early or lock your team in a little bit earlier. And then quali and the race, quali's on Saturday and the race is on Sunday as per usual, 3 p.m. local time, 2 p.m. UK time, and 9 a.m. Eastern for the race. Going over to some storylines to watch heading into the Belgian Grand Prix, 2A or not 2A? That is the question. And on the screen here, I've got 4 different teams, 4 different price points of what they did in the British Grand Prix, along with the British Grand Prix price rise, kind of what happened after the race. So a lot of people, a lot of managers, strategists, team principals, bosses, whatever we're calling it, were able to afford the coveted 4A lineup heading into Silverstone here. And that's going to be the top option here. McLaren, Mercedes, Piastri, Russell, Colapinto, Lawson, Bortolotto. That was 120.6 million. So on the face of it, 4 A-tier drivers, that's fantastic. But actually scored the worst of all four of these teams, 136 points, and only went up 0.4 million. Now, yes, it has Colapinto, Lawson, and Bortoleto that all DNF'd, but that is the slight risk you take when you go to these 4A lineups, that you will have to fill them with back markers for now, especially while you're like scraping over the line to get to it. And it can leave you at risk, especially with a rainy race like the UK just had, that Colapinto, Lawson, Bortoleto has all had their problems at times in wet races this season. I had a tweet on my X account at F1 Fantasy Ewan where it's like, the rookies and the dry racers are scoring like 7 points per race. And when it's a wet race, they're scoring like -8 points per race. So the rookies have been not so good in the rain this season. Even if you remember back to last year in Brazil when Ollie Behrman was in the Haas, he was taking over for Kevin Magnussen. He spun off like 3, 4, 5 times in the race and he still survived until the very end. So even Ollie Behrman's still having a little bit of problems with the wet. So that is something we need to consider. So my team here is actually on the second line, the McLaren, Ferrari, Piastri, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Behrman, Alonso. That was 116.9 million. It scored 273 points and went up 3.3 million. That's probably the best week I'm going to have in F1 Fantasy in terms of budget gaining ever. So I'm not going to say like, this team is going to outscore the 4A team for the remainder of the season. That's probably not going to happen. But the point of this graph is to show that while we are getting into the range of getting to like the 4A lineup, in theory, it does come with a little bit of risk. The third team here, McLaren plus Kick, Norris, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Bortoleto, that was 115.8 million. It scored 252 points, and then it was plus 2.1 million in budget. And then the final team, McLaren, Ferrari, Piastri, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Bortoleto, 115.1 million, 257 points plus 2.5 million. So there was kind of like a middle ground. That 250 to 280 point range was kind of the safe spot for people who did not go with like the Mercedes and the kind of Russell with some back markers area. And it is just one race, so it's just one data point. Over the course of the season, I do expect the 4A lineup to win out. But while we are getting to this kind of like crossover point in the season where it goes from like building budget to get to 4A to scoring points with the 4A lineup, you do just have to kind of pick and choose your moments here a little bit and be careful. I just saw this morning that Rob, Formula Fantasy Hub, had a pretty good tweet, very good tweet about his planning for this lineup. He was a little hesitant that he's going to have to go with like Colapinto in the lineup to kind of get to that. And that also gives me a little bit of pause, especially with all of the budget drivers that I have in my T1 squad here on the second line of this graph. If you're listening on the podcast side, highly encourage you to flip over to the YouTube channel real quick. Ocon, Hülkenberg, Behrman, Alonso, they are all likely to rise. So while it is tempting to kind of stretch towards this 4A lineup, maybe one more week, especially with it being a sprint weekend, I can get away with these 4 Tier B drivers and continue to build more budget and potentially get closer to the McLaren Ferrari build that I'm assuming we are all going to want to get to eventually here over the course of the season, if we can ever actually reach that point. However, the entire point of this, 2A or not 2A, there's so many different ways to play this game. We all want to get to the best team, but it is a little critical and important to kind of think about how we are getting there, when we are getting there, and if it really is the best way to make our team rounded the entire time. Moving over to the points forecast. This was a pretty popular segment that I did in the British Grand Prix team selection. So I'm going to keep it rolling for the rest of the season. Let me know in the comments below if you like this. So pretty much what happens is I take the kind of easier risers for the current Grand Prix, or the upcoming Grand Prix here, the Belgian Grand Prix. And then I also kind of try to forecast it for the next Grand Prix after that. So Belgium is coming up here in a couple of weeks, and then Hungary is right after it. So I've got Hülkenberg, Lance Stroll, Ollie Behrman, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly on the board here with their average points per race over the last 3, their Belgian Grand Prix points, price rise points, and then what their projected points to rise in Hungary will be thanks to Pat F1 for his excellent site that offers up all these details. That is in the description below as well if you want to go play around with it yourself. So Hulkenberg right now, he's averaging 27.7 points per race. I feel like I'm saying it every week. He can't keep doing this, and he keeps doing it. So I'm just going to let it wash over me. I'm not going to fight this anymore. In Belgium, he needs -45 for a good price rise, -37 for a great price rise. So Hulkenberg is going to rise 0.6. If he scores his average here, 27.7 points, I round down to 27. So if he scores 27 points in Belgium, he'll need -50 for a good price rise and -42 for a great price rise in Hungary. So feels like Hulkenberg is a strong hold throughout the remainder of until the summer break here. Lance Stroll is averaging 13 points per race over the last 3. He needs -14 for a good price rise, -6 for a great price rise in Belgium. If he scores his 13 points, it'll go to -6 and -8 in Hungary. So Lance Stroll also feeling like quite a strong hold option. However, I don't think there's a driver that goes week to week drives more differently than Lance Stroll. Like in Austria, I was terrified of him. I was telling you guys on the team selection, like I don't even want any part of Aston Martin just because Lance Stroll makes me so nervous. And then he went out and puts in like a 28-point performance. So great job by him. Ollie Bearman is next on the list, 12.3 points per race over the last 3 races. Needs -9 and -3 to go up the max price rise in Belgium. If he scores another 12 points, he'll need -6 points for a good price rise in Hungary and 2 points for a great price rise. So the Haas asset is also feeling like quite a strong asset. However, the Hungaroring is pretty much Monaco without walls, quite low overtake track. Haas haven't been fantastic in qualifying all season. However, Ollie Bearman did just put it into P8 at Silverstone. So we'll see if that starts to come along as the season moves over these next 2 weeks. So Bearman also quite a stronghold. Fernando Alonso, 13 points per race as well. And needs 1 point for a good price rise, 6 points for a great price rise in Belgium. Then that will go up to 1 and 7 in Hungary. So he's not really in the negative zone anymore like Nico Hulkenberg and his teammate Lance Stroll. So Alonso's starting to get a little bit more expensive, so he needs to start scoring some more points. He doesn't have those huge spike weeks like Nico Hulkenberg has had. Esteban Ocon here as well, needs -2 and 6 in Belgium, and then 7 and 16 in Hungary if he scores the 12 points that he's averaged over the last 3 races. So while I like Ocon, he's a veteran. He's doing a great job for Haas, scoring points like almost every other week at this point. The 7 and the 16 for Hungary do make me a little bit nervous, and I think that kind of puts him potentially on the chopping block for me in F1 Fantasy this upcoming race, just as I try to maneuver around a little bit. And then Pierre Gasly here, 7.7 points per race over the last 3, 1 point for a good price rise, 7 points for a great price rise in Belgium. If he scores 7 points in Belgium during the sprint weekend, he'll need -2 in Hungary for a good price rise and 4 for a great price rise. So these are kind of the 6 drivers that a lot of us already have in our lineups or will be looking to bring into our lineups ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. And like I said, Esteban Ocon potentially on the chopping block for me. So let's get into my team selection thoughts ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. So here we are, the T1 squad that did a bang-up job, I'm not going to lie, in Silverstone. The troops they did a great job. I'm very happy with the squad and how it all went down. Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg, Ollie Bearman with McLaren and Ferrari. Ferrari, slightly disappointing, but the 3rd highest scoring constructor, it's not all that bad. And I've got 2 free transfers. I know there's some teams that have 3 free transfers, so I'm a little bit jealous of that. And there are a lot of chip options on the table this week. There's the Autopilot, there's no negative, there's Limitless, there's extra DRS boost. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. What chip are you potentially playing at Spa-Francorchamps? And if I was going to go down the extra DRS boost ranks, I can get there quite easily. In 2 moves, I can get Lando Norris and Kick Sauber in here and kind of roll with triple McLaren, double Kick Sauber, and Fernando Alonso and Ollie Bearman. And as you saw in that previous graphic, Hulkenberg, Alonso, and Bearman are 3 of the 4 easiest to rise now and also rise in Hungary for the remainder of the summer break. So kind of going into this build would force me to, I would probably just keep triple McLaren because they were also really strong at Hungary last year when it was really hot. McLaren's like tire degradation was just superior to everyone else, and they had the whole squabble about Norris or Piastri kind of winning the race, but eventually it all worked out. Oscar Piastri getting his first win in Hungary, and I really like this squad. The problem is, it's like, do I really want to use my extra DRS boost at this point in the season? If it's hot in Belgium and it looks like McLaren have kind of the handle on the field, this becomes a lot more tempting of an option. Kick Sauber, if we go over to the budget builder, despite Gabriel Bortoletto's DNF, they still only need, what is it? Negative 32 for another 0.6 gain. Oscar Piastri is pretty good there. Lando Norris, given it's a sprint weekend, the 38 points could be achievable here. So with these 3 going up, with Piastri, Norris, and McLaren going up 0.9, and the other ones going up 0.6, potentially, that's 2.4. That could be another 3.3 million, which would be huge, as I am looking to get into that quad A lineup that we've been talking about. The thing that I kind of been putting together in the back of my head, like, Kimi Antonelli is having like a terrible second quarter of the season. Negative 18, negative 7 in the last 2 races. But there is a world where if he has a clean Belgium and a clean Hungary, right? We're looking at Kimi Antonelli coming out of Zandvoort. And there's a world where we can navigate around and get to a 4A light. And I'm wondering if Piastri, Antonelli, McLaren, and Ferrari are going to be better than Piastri, Russell, McLaren, and Mercedes at some point this season, possibly quite soon. So once, like, Antonelli's going to keep falling. Let's see. Let me put Antonelli in here. So say Antonelli goes down the next 2 races. He's going to be at 15.9, 7 million. I'm about... Let's see, where am I at? I can actually get to that lineup right now with my budget, which is 120.7 million or something like that. And I'm starting to kind of consider this as maybe a better version of the 4A, because if Antonelli can get it back together, he's going to rise 0.6 million, which will be quite handy. We'll keep gaining those budgets. These 3 guys on the bottom, I'm not in love with. Lawson, Colapinto, Bortoletto. Maybe this will turn into Valtteri Bottas. Maybe this will turn him back into Jack Doohan. Who even knows with Alpine at this point? But there is part of me that by the time we come out of the summer break into Zandvoort is wondering if this will be a popular way to go. And I'm trying to figure out how to get to those transfers. It's probably going to be more of a wait and see once we get to Hungary. But if I refresh this page and go back to what the original team was, if I'm not going with the extra DRS boost chip, there's not a ton that I want to do with this squad. Like, Alonso's good, Ocon's good, Hülkenberg's good, Behrman's good. I guess I could go Ocon to Stroll just to kind of shore up the budget building potential. Like we can see here, Stroll's a little bit better than Ocon. So while there are so many options to kind of go to in F1 Fantasy this week heading into the Belgian Grand Prix, like, I don't really feel great about bringing Ocon out for Lance Stroll, but like, I don't know. This team seems quite nicely set up. I don't mind it at all. I'm not going to kind of, if the McLarens look dominant, this is a switch that I would feel okay about. This one that I showed you guys earlier, the triple McLaren double kick with Alonso and Behrman. However, Ryder over here at F1 Fantasy Tools has blessed us with an early simulation. So I just wanted to see what he was thinking here. 283 points, 283.8 points plus 1.3 million would for Tsunoda and Lawson or take out Hülkenberg and Ocon here for Tsunoda and Lawson. This is very, very early sim, so we don't want to freak out too much. But my squad right here, 278.4 and plus 2.6. I'm willing to sacrifice 5 points right now for getting an extra 1.3 million in budget. The filters here as well. I've been doing this recently. It's very nice. You kind of just like eliminate a lot the ones that you wouldn't even want to look at anyway. So 283.8, I'm at 278.4. I think the team that I have right now, okay, it's not in the top 20, but so if we go even here with Kick, Norris, and Piastri, the lineup I was just showing you as well, that's 255 points. That's 2.77. So that's 23 points to gain 0.17. And that doesn't feel great either. The Ocon to Stroll move here, 277 plus 2.76, that's kind of in the realm of possibility. But right now, I'm probably looking at, kind of these three moves right here, like not using a transfer at all, which sounds absurd. Going Kick Norris to kind of maybe gain a little bit more budget, use the extra DRS boost chip if that seems like an appropriate use of the chip at the time, or going Ocon to Stroll. And yeah, that's kind of like where my brain is at right now. It is July 9th, so like we are still 2.5 weeks away. I'm not entirely sure what next week video is going to be, but I'll do another transfer targets and a Q&A stream, and like probably some like updated team selection thoughts during that transfer targets whenever we like get some news, see what's kind of going on in the F1 fantasy world. But yeah, that is kind of it for my team selection thoughts ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. But that'll do it for today's episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in the F1 Fantasy Pole Position paddock, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trying to get to 3,500 by the summer break, so I would greatly appreciate if you can help me reach my goal. But yes, hit me up on X, drop a comment in the description or in the video below if you have any F1 fantasy questions, lineup conundrums, chip strategy, all that fun stuff. And once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.